Our planet holds many extraordinary corners, but you might struggle to imagine a forgotten kingdom nestled within the African continent, covered in snow for a significant part of the year. This nation upholds traditions as controversial as Lobola, an ancient custom where the groom's family presents diamonds or other assets to the bride's family, enabling him to take her as his wife in a society where a man's wealth can determine how many wives he may have. In this new video from US, we will delve deeper into Lesotho, Africa's highest country and one of the planet's most fascinating. Lesotho is a country with traditions as striking as the Mokhibo, also known as the Dance of the Virgins, where thousands of women dance wearing minimal traditional clothing in a collective ceremony, symbolizing their transition into adulthood. Lesotho is also nicknamed the Kingdom in the Sky, as it's the only country in the world entirely situated above 1,400 meters. This unique geography conceals majestic landscapes, ancestral traditions, and legends that shaped its history, linked to the resistance of its women deep within its diamond mines. This discovery is intrinsically tied to why Lesotho remains the only African nation never to have been colonized. All of this is deeply and directly connected to the preservation of its culture and traditions, which have remained unaltered over centuries. Thanks to this, one can find thousand-year-old stone villages, remote tribes, ski slopes, and even some of the most dangerous roads on the planet. Pay close attention and don't miss this video, because besides these fascinating details, Lesotho holds incomparable wonders and realities that will likely leave you speechless. Let's begin. Lesotho is a forgotten kingdom, a small piece of land on the world map dwarfed by the enormous country surrounding it, South Africa. But despite its diminutive size, covering an area of approximately 30,400 square kilometers, similar in size to countries like El Salvador in Central America or Belgium in Europe, this nation possesses a geography, history, and traditions that make it unique on the African continent. Its geographical location is so distinct that it makes it the only country in the world situated entirely above 1,400 meters above sea level, rendering it not only the highest country in Africa, but also the coldest, with an average annual temperature of 7 degrees Celsius. For this reason, Lesotho also earns the nickname the Kingdom in the Sky, as its altitude makes it one of the countries closest to the heavens on Earth. This extreme altitude creates breathtaking geography, with mountains rising dramatically, deep valleys, and rugged landscapes. Nature here is imposing, and its severe climate contributes to Lesotho's truly unique reality. Due to this extreme geography and the country's poverty, Lesotho features some of the world's most dangerous roads. Routes wind along the sides of steep mountains, with cliffs dropping abruptly hundreds, sometimes even thousands of meters. The combination of narrow roads, frequent fog, torrential rains, and inadequate signage creates extremely hazardous travel conditions. A miscalculation while driving these routes could result in a tragic accident. This means that if you plan to visit or travel through Lesotho, thorough research of your routes before starting is essential. If traveling by car, it is highly recommended to be prepared for changing conditions and to drive with extreme caution, as surprises can be as stunning as they are terrifying. One of Lesotho's most impressive and popular routes is the Sani Pass, a mountain pass connecting South Africa with Lesotho. This challenging journey snakes up the steep slopes of the Drakensberg Mountains, offering spectacular views that make it one of the most stunning and beautiful roads in the world. Once you cross the border into Lesotho territory, the Sani Pass leads you to the picturesque and iconic Sani Mountain Lodge. There you can enjoy a warm drink at the highest pub on the entire African continent, attempting to relax and endure the cold temperatures of this remote location. The Drakensberg Mountains, known as the Dragon of Africa, form one of the most breathtaking landscapes on the African continent, with their imposing majesty and peaks that seem to touch the sky. Their beauty is so overwhelming that many compare them to the European Alps, but what makes them unique is the wild and almost mystical environment surrounding them. These mountains, stretching along the border between South Africa and Lesotho, create an unparalleled natural spectacle. The Drakensberg are not just a visual paradise, but also a treasure trove of biodiversity. Unique species, found nowhere else in the world, thrive on their snow-capped peaks and grass-covered valleys. But what truly fascinates about these mountains is their ability to transport visitors to an almost ancestral time, where nature and history seem to merge. This region is filled with stories and legends, some etched deep within its hidden recesses, closely tied to the history of this enigmatic country, which we will soon discover. As you might understand, Lesotho's geography, far from being a mere curiosity, profoundly influences the daily lives of its inhabitants. The climate is cold, especially in winter when the mountains are covered in snow, presenting the kingdom with a wintry image for much of the year that few might associate with Africa. Rain is frequent, leading to green landscapes and lush vegetation during the warmer months. And amidst all these natural wonders, owing to these conditions, Lesotho hosts a ski slope, one of the very few on the entire continent, called Afriski, located in the Maludi Mountains. Although few people know about it, this ski resort attracts the most intrepid adventurers seeking snow on a continent where skiing seems unimaginable. Few people realize that right in the heart of Africa, they can enjoy this winter sport surrounded by dreamlike landscapes. But the majesty of Africa's snowy kingdom doesn't end with its climate and geography. Its territory comprises stunning mountains and dense forests that create a mystical and wild atmosphere. Places like Sehlebathebe National Park and the mountainous Maludi area are true natural jewels, offering breathtaking panoramic views and the tranquility of untouched landscapes. This African corner is far removed from the typical safaris or plains dominating other parts of the continent. Lesotho is a country where nature manifests in its purest and most overwhelming form. Beyond this natural beauty, Lesotho's past and present make it even more extraordinary. Despite being a very small kingdom, it holds a history few could imagine. For centuries, Lesotho has maintained its independence, standing as the only African country never colonized by European powers. In ancient times, this kingdom was renowned for its formidable resistance, and it is said that within its territories existed a secret group of women warriors known as the Somsebo, the guardians of the warrior spirit. These women, endowed with exceptional bravery and skill, were fundamental in the kingdom's defense. Their presence in battles marked Lesotho's history, leaving a profound imprint on the country's culture and mythology, making them a symbol of resistance and power. This resistance and power are linked to the diamond mines, subterranean cavities that have not only been a source of wealth, but also the origin of legends that shape the country's history. A few years ago, an extraordinary archaeological discovery seemed to authenticate these tales, previously considered mere legends, after uncovering something entirely unexpected, which you will soon learn about. In the rugged mountains of the Kingdom of Lesotho, intense conflicts persisted for many centuries. Among these, the Basotho communities faced constant threats from clashes with neighboring tribes and incursions by foreign colonizers. Amidst this instability, some women, along with their children, were forced to seek refuge in unusual places to ensure their survival. Near the village of Letsing, known today for its diamond wealth, ancient natural cavities existed in the mountains which, according to local accounts, served as hiding places during these perilous times when tribes fought for survival. These caves, deep and difficult to access, offered shelter from external threats and became makeshift refuges for those fleeing the violence, as few knew of their existence and fewer still understood how to reach their depths. Although formal diamond exploitation in Lesotho began centuries later, studies suggest that these rock formations in the Letsing region were used as natural shelters long before their mineral value was discovered. During those times, the women might have found small, brilliant stones embedded in the walls and floors without fully grasping their significance. But what happened in those mines was not just a story of survival, but a legacy passed from generation to generation, as these women, forced to hide in the depths of the earth, not only saved their lives, but also sowed a lesson that was never forgotten. They depicted their experiences on the walls of these dark caverns. Among these drawings, stories unknown to many have been discovered, like that of a woman who lived underground alone for years to escape a fatal destiny. Her testimony is chilling. All this is known because thousands of years ago, the first inhabitants of this land left their mark on the rocks. In the Lipofung caves and other hidden caverns within the mountains, their rock paintings still narrate stories of hunting, war, and survival. This reality shows that for centuries, these were not merely shelters, they were natural fortresses where tribes protected themselves from invaders and predators. And among these many stories, paintings were found of a woman who seems to have survived for years hidden beneath the earth, describing a story that shows what her daily life might have been like to survive. What do you think about this reality? Would you dare to live alone underground for years, surfacing only to hunt and survive? How do you think someone could survive like that for years? Pause the video and leave us your comment. You know doing so is the best way to support the channel, so we can continue working each week to bring you the best content, so thank you. You were likely surprised by this reality, as life in the depths of the earth was extremely difficult. But Lesotho's geography, a place with abundant rain and snow within Africa, offered a crucial advantage. Despite being hidden in dark caverns, the women could have sourced water from underground streams and springs filtering down from the nearby mountains. Regarding food, ancient tribes knew their environment well, along with hunting and gathering techniques, so they might have survived on what nature offered. Edible roots, medicinal plants, and hunting small animals could have formed part of their diet, possibly supplemented by collecting insects and herbs growing on the rocks. The existence of nearby natural sources would also have facilitated access to food, such as hunting small mammals or birds sheltering in mountain crevices. Realities like these probably helped the woman in this story, and many others, to survive. These same stories, passed down through generations, not only preserved their legacy, but also contributed to the resilience of a people who over time would become the only African nation never to have been colonized. In the village of Mokhibo in the country's northeast, stories like these are told passed down through generations about how Basotho mothers used these natural shelters to protect their families during enemy raids. These legends speak of the bravery of women who, sometimes in the absence of their warrior husbands, shouldered this responsibility and danger. The Letseng diamond mine, situated high in the mountains, is renowned today for producing some of the world's largest and most valuable gems. But what is even more fascinating is to imagine that long before these treasures were industrially extracted, these same mountains served as sanctuaries for Basotho families in times of crisis. These men and women, forced to hide in the depths of the earth, not only saved their lives, but also instilled a lesson that would never be forgotten. In Lesotho, surrender was never an option. Over time, these caverns also helped the country prosper, as mining became one of the pillars of its economy, especially the diamond mines, which have been a significant source of income, albeit accompanied by numerous challenges. Lesotho's diamond mines, hidden deep within its mountains, were a well-kept secret for a long time. However, poverty has been a constant companion in this kingdom's life, as despite being the country that supplies water to all of South Africa, a large part of the population lives in extreme poverty. Lesotho is a vital water supplier to its neighbor South Africa thanks to its vast rivers and underground mountain springs. However, despite possessing these valuable natural resources, the reality of being a small country with limited resources of its own has meant that poverty remains a constant. Many of its resources, like diamonds and water, are often exploited by neighboring countries such as South Africa or by foreign companies, without the benefits remaining within the country. But the strength of its population is their best ally against difficulties, and this is clearly visible in how they have maintained their ancestral rituals and traditions. Among these realities are controversial practices like polygamy, allowing men in Lesotho to have multiple wives, and traditional dances that mark the transition to adulthood for the country's women. This dance is the Mokhibo, a traditional dance performed as an initiation rite for young women. In this event, thousands of women dress in minimal traditional attire and perform a collective dance, celebrating their passage into adulthood. This ceremony holds strong symbolism and serves as a reminder of the deep roots of Lesotho's culture. The Mokhibo is much more than a traditional dance. It is an initiation rite marking the passage of young women into adulthood in Lesotho, a moment of great symbolism. During this event, thousands of women dress in minimal traditional clothing and perform a collective dance, celebrating their maturity and readiness to assume new responsibilities within their community. Although this type of attire might seem unusual to many cultures, in Lesotho it carries profound meaning. It is an act of respect towards traditions passed down through generations. This step into adulthood also marks the time when women are prepared to take an active role within the family structure, a structure where Lobola, the bride price a man or his family pays for a woman's hand, plays a fundamental role. In Lesotho, unlike some other African cultures where cattle are traditionally used as bride price, the practice of Lobola often involves other assets, such as money or in some cases diamonds, which are a valuable resource in this region. Considering this, the greater a man's wealth, the greater his capacity to offer a substantial bride price, thereby increasing his chances of taking a wife. In the cultures of Lesotho and other parts of Africa, Lobola is a practice symbolizing commitment and respect between families. This ritual celebrates not only love, but also mutual respect and the creation of alliances between communities. Within this cultural context, polygamy is a reality for many men in Lesotho who may have several wives, provided they possess sufficient resources to meet societal expectations. Generally, a man with more assets, be it cattle, money, or diamonds, has greater opportunities to acquire more wives. This system of polygamy, an integral part of many African cultures for centuries, is not merely a matter of power or personal desire, but is linked to principles of solidarity, family cooperation, and the forging of strong ties between families. But it's important to know that in Lesotho, having multiple wives does not imply a forced relationship. Although women must accept the situation, in most cases, the decision to enter a polygamous family is not taken lightly. Women in Lesotho have a voice within this system, and their consent is essential. Polygamy in Lesotho is based on mutual respect between the wives and the husband, requiring women to coexist and cooperate. In many families, the wives form bonds among themselves and support each other, understanding that their collective well-being is key to the household's success. Interaction between wives is not always simple, but developing relationships of respect and teamwork is common. In traditional communities, women are expected to share responsibilities and collaborate on daily tasks, such as childcare and household management. In this type of extended family, each wife holds a place within the structure, and important decisions are often made jointly, frequently with the council of senior wives, meaning the roles of these women themselves change within the family over time. Having reached this point, we'd like to know, would you like to dance alongside the women of Lesotho in the Mokhibo dance? Or if you could, would you marry multiple women? We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments, so if you've made it this far, don't hesitate to pause the video and leave us your comment and a good like. As you know, your help is the best way you can support Uzite. Something not everyone knows is that the idea of multiple wives isn't exclusively linked to male power or desire, but rather to strengthening relationships between families and ensuring survival and well-being within the community, especially in impoverished regions like Lesotho, where the struggle for survival is constant. This strength, often associated with the traditions, legends, and women of Lesotho, is deeply connected to how the people of Lesotho resisted attempts at colonization by European countries. During the 19th century, as European powers vied to expand their dominion across Africa, the Basotho people, led by King Moshoeshoe I, found themselves in a constant struggle to protect their independence. Facing threats from the Boers, descendants of Dutch settlers, and later the British, Moshoeshoe I made a strategic decision that would mark Lesotho's history. He retreated to the high mountains of his territory to a place known as Thaba Bosia. Moshoeshoe likely knew many of the stories and legends associated with the resistance of Lesotho's ancient inhabitants, which is why this mountain, with its natural fortress-like shape, became the center of the Basotho people's resistance. From there, Moshoeshoe I established a fortified camp, which was almost inaccessible by land due to its steep slopes and the challenging surrounding geography. Over the years, the site was filled with stone walls and makeshift fortifications, turning it into a true natural stronghold. Thaba Bosiu's geographical position made it practically impossible for invaders to capture. From there, the king and his warriors could protect themselves from all attacks, not only because it was a natural fortress, being a mountain situated amidst a plain, but also because it possessed everything necessary for survival: water, provisions, and livestock. Furthermore, the Basotho utilized their knowledge of the terrain and mountain routes to surprise their enemies with sudden attacks and swift maneuvers. The Basotho's ability to defend themselves on their own terrain, with Moshoeshoe I commanding, allowed them to successfully resist colonization attempts, and the area remained unconquered for a long time. Throughout this period, the Basotho resistance, organized around Thaba Bosiu, was not only a reflection of the leader's strategic skill, but also of the determination of a people who, armed with their environmental knowledge and a profound sense of unity, fought for their independence. Consequently, Thaba Bosiu is the country's most important historical, spiritual, and cultural site. A visit is essential if you travel to the country and wish to understand the history of the Basotho people. The name Thaba Bosiu etymologically means mountain at night. Its origin seems to stem from a legend telling the story of shamans who decided to burn a rope made of grass encircling the mountain. By doing so, they managed to make the mountain appear increasingly taller during the night, rendering it unreachable by their enemies. At this point, you might be wondering how to plan a visit to the fascinating nation of Lesotho. From US, we have compiled all the essential information for you to make the most of your adventure in this unique corner of Africa. To get there, the most common option is to fly into South Africa, given that Lesotho is completely encircled by this country. From Johannesburg, you can take a flight to Maseru, the capital of Lesotho, or travel by road, which can be an incredible experience if you prefer adventure, but as you know, it can also be dangerous. Keep in mind you will need a valid passport to enter, and a visa is not required for most nationalities for short stays, but it is always advisable to check specific entry requirements before traveling. This country offers travelers a unique experience in terms of both landscapes and costs. The cost of living in Lesotho is generally lower than in many parts of the world, considered one of the planet's most economical countries. Additionally, US dollars are accepted in numerous establishments, and exchange rates are favorable, facilitating transactions for those carrying this currency. Regarding accommodation, options are varied and cater to different budgets. In major cities like Maseru, basic rooms can be found, starting from approximately $20 per night. For those seeking greater comfort, 3-star hotels in Maseru have an average price range of between $30 and $50 per night, with options potentially being more economical depending on the season and booking advance. Gastronomy in Lesotho is equally accessible. A meal at an inexpensive restaurant costs around $5. As for getting around the country, although main roads are generally in good condition, rural roads can be more difficult and dangerous, especially in mountainous areas and during the rainy season. Roads can be narrow, steep, and occasionally impassable without an adequate vehicle. Therefore, renting a 4x4 vehicle is highly recommended for safely exploring the mountainous landscapes. Some routes, like the famous Sani Pass, specifically require 4x4 vehicles due to their rugged terrain. If you prefer not to drive, you can use taxis and minibuses, which are the most common forms of public transport in Lesotho. However, bear in mind that these services are not always as punctual as you might find elsewhere. Patience and advanced planning are important. Regarding safety, Lesotho is considered one of the calmest and safest countries in Africa, with a relatively stable political situation. But nevertheless, as with any tourist destination, it is advisable to remain vigilant and follow local recommendations. Crime rates in the country are low, but it is always prudent to take precautions, such as avoiding poorly lit or isolated areas at night and not displaying valuable items in public. From us, we hope this journey through the wonders and curiosities of Lesotho has been as exciting for you as it has been for us. Considering this and the effort involved in producing these videos, we would love it if you left us a good like, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave us a thoughtful comment. It's the best way you can help us continue bringing the best content each week. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed, don't wait any longer. Do it now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the fascinating videos we create every week. Videos like the one you can watch now to explore one of the most enigmatic corners of the planet. Don't miss it and discover the wonders this place has to offer.